Riding hills in training is one thing, riding hills in a race is a whole different thing altogether. After all, it is a race, you want to go fast, this is your big dance. But trust me on this one, and this is coming from a man that's learned from some bad mistakes, there is a knack to riding a hilly triathlon. So let me run you through a few of my tips. Today I'm riding the Ironman 70.3 Mallorca course. It starts out with 15 kilometers or so of relatively flat roads leading into a rather cheeky climb. It's a race I've done numerous times, some well, some not so well. But one thing I have learned from racing these kind of courses is that a majority of the field will ride the hills far too hard. It's a fact that we have to accept before we move on. If you can't, then you'll likely fall into one of the following scenarios. Right, I'm just hitting the climb. I am holding a great cadence. I'm just keeping it going from the flat into the climb. I feel great. Yeah. Oh God. Oh, maybe it's not so good. We subconsciously try to maintain the same comfortable cadence from the flat into the climb, but this just results in a sudden spike in power and probably a sudden regret too. Right, here we go. Still sitting in zone 3 heart rate. I am flying. Yeah. Oh wait, hang on. Zone 4, zone 5, zone 6. I think it's broken. Oh man. Heart rate is a great tool for measuring effort, but it's not as quick to respond as power. Your monitor might read zone 3 and you might feel quite fresh at the start of the climb, but it could take a little longer to reach the actual effort zone you're in. If you've done either of these, you'll likely be suffering in the last third or quarter of the climb. Perhaps still holding a higher power than you were on the flat, but considerably less than when you first started the hill. But by this point, it's too late. You'll have burnt a number of precious matches that could cost you later in the race. Yeah, nailed it. Where did they come from? Oh, they didn't go hard enough. Push too hard on the hill and the tendency is to back off at the top and potentially cost you more time than if you paced it better. Recognise any of those? I think we're all guilty of a couple, but let's look at how you can avoid them. You want to start thinking about the climb on your approach, not as you just hit it. Now, I appreciate it is race day, you can't afford to fully back off, but perhaps consider keeping a slight cap on it. Actually, for some, riding with a slightly higher cadence will help to reduce the muscular fatigue leading into the climb. And it's also really important to reduce any sudden surges or spikes in power before the climb. Just try to maintain a constant effort level and settle into a nice rhythm. As we enter the climb, you start shifting down your gears to easier gears. This will help to reduce any spikes in power, also help to reduce that urge to maintain your cadence from the flat to the climb. And even if you don't have a power meter, it should work to the feel and pressure of your feet through to your pedals. The aim being to maintain the pressure from the flat onto the climb. Don't be surprised if you see a few athletes opening up a gap here. They're likely making all those previous mistakes, and you may well see them later on the climb, later on the bike, or even on the run. As we get stuck into the meat of the climb, it's important to try and find that groove and rhythm again. Now, if you are working to power, most athletes naturally find that they ride with slightly higher power on the climb, and they struggle to hold back. However, I tend to advise that you cap this at around 5 to 10% above your target race power. That way, you're still utilising this increase, but you're making sure you don't go too hard into the red, potentially causing damage for later in the race. If you are working to heart rate instead, then just make sure you keep this the same from the flat to the hill, but make sure you're not making any surges or spikes in effort level. If you pace the climb well, as we crest it, you should be able to settle straight back into your target power, effort, or pace. As Matt Bottrell mentioned in one of our previous videos, this is the point that so many athletes lose a considerable amount of time. So you want to try and get straight back into your aero bars, start laying that power down if you paced it well, and potentially start passing some of those athletes that have gone far too hard on the climb. Now, ultimately, we want to remind ourselves of the run off the bike. So going into the red or far too hard on the climb is only going to hamper that. So we want to aim for a really evenly paced ride. At the end of the day, we're our own worst enemies. It mostly comes down to holding ourselves back and pacing the bike evenly. And I'm sure many of us have loads of stories of mistakes on courses like this. So please do share them in the comments section below. They're always fun to read. And if you haven't done so already, just click on the globe and subscribe to GTN. And if you'd like to see that Matt Bottrell video on how to cycle faster for free, just click down here. And today we haven't actually spoken about the technique of climbing, particularly on a road bike. So you can see a video on how to climb on a tri bike by clicking down here.